we've got two incredible Rock Hall inductees who have been great friends to the museum over the years, have been here numerous times and supported both our education programming and the Rock Hall programming in general. So first up, we have Darryl DMC McDaniels. Run-DMC ushered rap into the second wave in the 1980s. Run-DMC earned a number of hip-hop's firsts. The first rappers to go platinum, the first to be featured prominently on MTV, the first to appear on Saturday Night Live, and the first to appear on the cover of Rolling Stone. They broke down barriers for future hip-hop artists. They crossed boundaries between rap and rock, and they were fashion trendsetters. And I can confirm that for a fact because I was trying to wear the jacket and the hat and the Adidas the whole time too. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Run-DMC's Darryl DMC McDaniels. What's up, man? We can hit the lights so we don't leave D in the dark over there too. There we go.
Hello.
All right, and then next up, of course, we have the one and only Chuck D from Public Enemy. You know the songs, Fight the Power, Welcome to the Terror Dome, Rebel Without a Pause. Public Enemy transformed the way Americans and people around the world listened to hip hop. And it is Chuck's hard-hitting, unrelenting style that brought the lyrics to people's ears. And of course, the incredible dynamic of Flavor Flav on the stage presence with him. So ladies and gentlemen, he's already out here. Give it up for Chuck D. Here, you come over and sit next to D. Oh. Thank you, sir.
Sit next to the king of rock.
There is none higher. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today.
Cool.
You know, what a great day to have this exhibit here at the museum. And I meant what I said there earlier. The two of you guys have been such great friends to the museum, such great supporters of our educational resources and everything we do here. And it's fantastic to have both of you here today. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, and especially this is the shrine, and a lot of times, right, the inspiration that this man had a vision a long time ago that this music that we do is as proficient as rock music.
Yes.
He called himself the king of rock for a reason.
12 years old. I was just imagining I could do that one day. But I'm not Mick Jagger, I'm not Freddie Mercury, I'm not all the stars we grew up seeing on Soul Train. But this thing from the Bronx comes over the bridge to Queens that allows me to do that. So what's so special about me being here is, you know that saying, having a rock and roll dream? Well, hip hop allowed this little Catholic straight A school kid from Queens, New York, for his rock and roll dream to come true. Here I am.
Yeah. D, we've talked about this many times before, but I gotta say it since we started with this. You know, the fact that you guys had a music video where you and Rev Run broke into a rock and roll museum.
Yep.
Right? And
Larry Bud Melman from the David Letterman show.
Yeah.
You guys can't come in here. This is a rock and roll museum. What? I'm the king of rock. And we screamed on him, pulled the plug on Jerry Lee Lewis, threw the hat on the Beatles, took Michael Jackson's glove in all of its splendid glory, spinning on the pedestal. Run takes it down. There's a close-up of my Adidas stepping on it. And what's crazy about that, it was prophetic because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame didn't exist. Me and Run knew when we was doing that video. It's been around. Look, it's been around since the 50s. It had to be. We had no idea. It didn't start till 86. That's crazy. And I always tell little kids that story. Y'all don't know the power that y'all have in your creativity.
Totally.
So here's a crazy story too. The video's out, and we walk in. Every time we would leave JFK, we would see Prince. So we'd be going, he'd be coming. Hey, Prince, hey, what's up? So after about the 12th time, me and Run and Jay, we never forget this day. We walk in, you know, doing that, and here comes Prince, right? And he walks by us, and without looking at us this particular day, he just said, this is 86, he goes, because he must have knew it was coming. But he walks by us, instead of saying, what's up, he don't even look at it, he just says, you guys gonna be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame one day. And he keeps walking, so me and Jay, we stopped, we go, what the hell are you just talking about? And then we just kept walking on. But when we got in, that story plus that one was like, wow.
Yeah, right.
But the cool thing about that, you know, it was at a time where people was like, it's gonna be a fad, it's not gonna be around, it's gonna go out like the hula hoop and the slinky and stuff like that. For Prince to say that was like confirmation that it had to happen.
Yeah.
It had to.
Had to happen. Of course, Run-DMC inducted in 2009, Public Enemy in 2013. You know, incredible. I also have to mention, because I got to brag, you got 3 guys up here from Queens and Long Island. Also.
Yes.
Chuck, I wanted to start thinking a little bit about...
I was born in Queens in 1960.
You were, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Queens. So
Then you
all 3
moved to
are
Long Island.
Then moved to Long Island.
Same with me, yeah.
And we also got the great E-Love here.
Yeah.
E-Love in the house.
E-Love, the LL Cool J crew, another inductee, you know, and he's actually the silhouette in the logo of the Public Enemy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, which we have the original drawing for downstairs.
He's a living
in the exhibit.
logo.
Yeah.
A living logo, yes. There he is.
Well, Chuck, I wanted to start off thinking about the Fight the Power documentary series. Like I said, incredible 4 episodes that takes us through the history of hip hop. And I was thinking back, like, you know, when we were starting to put the exhibit together, 50 years of hip hop. How do you tell that story, right? How do you find a way into it? How do you look at all the different moments and artists and songs and changes in culture? And what I really loved the way you guys did it is you connected it to society. You connected it to what was happening in communities. You talked about the culture, and then you talked about how the music was part of that. And I think that was, you know, it makes sense. It almost had to be that way, right?
Well, 2 years ago, and big up to Lori Buller, the managing partner, you know, the head of the Channel Zero production company that actually, I mean, she pulled out all the stops to make it happen. I'm not really in film and all that. And I ushered this challenge to her. I said, listen, we know we're heading into Hip Hop 50, but even if it's not, like, how do we start looking at our music? When do we start making importance great, if not greater than popularity?
Yeah.
Because I got tired, and I know Dee gets tired of somebody else having the narrative of what we do over our voices. So one of the goals that Lori made happen is the voices that have been in hip hop, including this man right here, are speaking from our narrative and then tying it together, what started them and the social involvement that it sprouted out of. And not only, it started from that social construct of a city that was stripped out of everything, and out of the ashes rising like a phoenix came hip hop, but it was quickly spread because New York is Pittsburgh, is Cleveland, is Chicago. It's a United States thing. As soon as it's here, if you got relatives somewhere, it's gonna catch fire, and that's how it caught fire, socially.
Yeah. And to think about, too, going back to the idea that, you know, the first episode goes all the way back to the work the Black Panthers were doing in New York City, goes back to sort of that environment that hip hop came out of. Can each of you guys think, where was the moment that you first recognized that there was a community, or there was a place that maybe was called hip hop that you could be part of? Probably before it was called hip hop, I imagine, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I you know, and Dee could speak for this. I wasn't in awe of hip hop. I was 13 years old at the time. I wasn't born under hip hop, but one thing I was born under is culture of our people, our community, music and vocalization, musicianship, dance culture, art culture was always in our community as a larger voice, because we didn't have that voice out there that was the governor or was the president or was even the person in the community that pulled the strings and pushed and pulled the levers. We knew that at the end of the day, if we had to hear something, it came through that radio, usually in song or somebody talking about the song. So the 70s to me was a very fruitful period growing up in New York. And also the fact that we didn't always get it the way, you know, like, oh, we got to get it the way we got to have it. No, and DMC could speak more on that. It's like WABC radio, played the universe of everything that's in this building and made us like Steely Dan as much as James
Sly
Brown.
and the Family Stone, Jim Croce, Janis Joplin. It was just so diverse, but it was a representation of the whole society at that time. Even though we was on the ends of the struggle, we was hearing these records of Dan Ingram, Harry Harrison, and it was news, it was weather, it was politics, it was funk, it was rock and roll, it was folk music. And a lot of the music spoke. What was special about those music, even Marvin Gaye, the sexy soul love making man, had to make what's going on.
Yeah.
They had to address the issues that was foremost important to the daily lives of the audience. Yeah. And for me as a little kid, it was a little different for me because I went to Catholic school my whole life. I had both parents. Both of my parents worked. We wasn't rich, but it was Christmas and holidays every day in my house. Not because of things, but that was the spirit.
Yeah.
So, as much as you had all this you had darkness, death, and destruction everywhere. Harlem wasn't Harlem. If you go to Harlem, Harlem's Harlem now. But back in the day, it was Harlem. It was Superfly and Shaft and Hell Up in Harlem, and that was the reality of our community. But even in the dirt poor ghetto, it bugs me out that people, when they say the street, the first thing they do, they jump at the negativity that's going on the street. Yeah. But I'm from the side. We had 25th Street, which we rapped about on Adidas, pimps, pushers, drug dealers, heroin addicts, gangs, and all of that. It wasn't as prolific as the Bronx, because look, the Bronx was on fire. I was scared. I was like, oh shit, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? But the hip hop came out of that. But I was a young kid. Hip hop allowed me to have a voice. Like when I would listen to the radio, I would listen to the musicians. They would say stuff like politics and governments and presidents. And they would talk about poverty and crime. And for me, like Chuck said, I was a kid. I was a little kid. So for me, it was just comic books, Godzilla, the 1930s horror movies. But when I would hear rock music and when I would hear the soul music and when I would hear Curtis Mayfield and all of these artists, they were talking about the issues that was on the news and in the newspapers. Yeah. And I related to it because it was like, oh, I learned that in social studies. I heard about that in history. But when hip hop came along, it allowed me, not being one of the kids living in the Bronx, to talk about what I was going through in my society. And that was the beauty of it. It gave everybody a voice to be heard. And that was powerful.
Yeah. And Chuck, that's what's at the heart of that famous comment of yours that, hip hop was CNN, right? Because the idea
CNN too much credit, but
I think actually you got to give hip hop more credit than CNN.
But back then, I meant it really because when Ted Turner first started CNN, he was like, "They're going to call me crazy, but I'm going to give you news all the time from everywhere. This is just not coming out of New York, DC, and maybe Los Angeles. This is coming from everywhere." And when hip hop started, like I said, we got the great Johnny O. When I first came here to Cleveland in the mid '80s, he's one of the DJs that make it happen, as well as a lot of the not just people that did the DJ thing and the MC thing, the Mike McAdoo's and people like that, MC Chill, Kevin Hurd, who works with the communities in the Ohio area right throughout, but also people like, Val One and Wild C, who would write about the music. Because people say, well, listen, if we're not going to get the record out, I think the only guy that got the first record deal was MC Chill with Fever Records, right? And he had Fever Records. And so, oh, wow. But people felt Kermit Henderson in the retail, they found out that they can write about the music just like Cleveland and the rock scene said, okay, you know what? We might not have the bands come out of here recognized, but we're going to come up with a Cream magazine or Alternative Press. And we're going to write about it. And so therefore, with hip hop, it started there, but everybody around the country and then around the world got their radars up. Like, how could we participate in this? Because they're gonna come out here and do shows, so we're gonna give them the best interview that they probably don't get in New York.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So hip hop was this infectious thing of involvement. And I wanted to see, and I challenged Laurie Booler, I said, how do we make the importance of this narrative get across that everybody feels that their love for it was not in vain? You know what I'm saying? That this has been important since minute one, and not kid music, not an adolescent thing, not something that starts up, bubbles up, gets popular, and then they discard it at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
You know, we talk about this all the time. For every Beatles, Rolling Stone, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, you got third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh tiers of greatness. Like, Led Zeppelin, Def Leppard ain't even Led Zeppelin, but they're like, wow, right? Styx,
Iron Maiden. Yes,
you know
exactly.
What I'm saying? And if you had to put, could they make the top 20? Maybe not.
Right.
The top 150, in the bottom from the 150 to 200 are great.
It's still
so
awesome.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yes.
So we want to say, like, listen, our art form is serious, but you need heads, you need involvement, curators, caretakers. And this is why we take the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame serious. We're in the United States of sport, where it's all sport all the time. ESPN shows you the same thing 8 times a day so you don't be sports stupid and get your ass thrown out of a bar. They give you history, jerseys all the time. So everybody knows stats and all this is sports, and they know that. But when it comes down to the music and hip hop, it's like nobody can say who the DJ was. They can't. Before, once upon a time, we used to know who's the musicians in Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, for sure,
the producer.
Totally, right.
And we love that. So we take the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame serious. When some people are like, oh, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah, but when you follow basketball and football and baseball, the first thing they say, oh, that look like that's going to be a Hall of Famer right there. So, you know what I'm saying? Everything about Hall of Fame. So when myself and DMC goes and tells people, I said, this is important.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets downplayed like, well, y'all should have been in there 30 years ago. No, it's 12, 25 years of eligibility. You got to really bust your ass.
You gotta work.
Yeah. You gotta work.
You gotta be around.
25 solid years you got to do before you get it.
And you can't put out no crap. That's another thing. Let's keep it real. This is important because we gotta acknowledge the thing that made hip hop great. Look, I was telling people it's great to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but you know what's even better? Just to be considered worthy enough for induction was an accomplishment for this hip hop culture, which said what Chuck is trying to do to inspire that next generation to go above what De La Soul and Bob Dylan and all of us do. Don't stay in this little rut, because that's not what it's about. It's like Chuck said, it spread like a zombie apocalypse. It left the shores of America, went to Asia, went to Europe, went down to South America. You know, it was funny. I was down at a Comic-Con in Mexico. No, I was down at a Comic-Con in Mexico, and they walk around all day with heavy metal. And you go to a concert there, they'll say, even if they know it's Japan, they know all the lyrics. But I'm looking at all of these heavy metal, and I'm seeing Van Halen's, seeing Led Zeppelin's, but in the midst of all of these young people, there's Public Enemy. Oh shoot, there's Tribe Called Quest. There's Run-DMC. That signifies something, that even though we did the video in '85 and it came in '86, there was something crazy when Larry Bud Melman said, you guys can't come in here. This is a rock and roll museum. But there's people who's been oppressed and who's been held down. Look, us black folk are really used to getting told, you guys can't come in here. And the reason why. But I think hip hop was powerful enough, legitimate enough, creative enough, inspirational enough, and truthful enough to allow us to be included in the discussion, and then even open up the floodgates for everybody else to come in.
Yeah.
Think about that. In the Walk This Way video, since 1986, I've been to South Sudan to rap, which is crazy. I've been to South Sudan. I've been to Russia and Ukraine in the same war. There's great people in Russia, like great people everywhere. I've been to Asia and I've been to Europe. Everywhere I go, and you can ask Eric this, everywhere I go since 86, people go, DMC, when Steven Tyler took that mic stand and knocked down the wall that was separating you in that video, that didn't just happen in the video. It happened in the world.
Yeah.
It was real. And that's a unfathomable thing for us to think that a culture that involves collaboration, cooperation, and communication that people wanted to shut down, but they couldn't shut it down because people were sincere and people were determined to be heard.
Yeah.
And everything I just said, you could define it as hip hop, but you could define it as rock and roll. You could define it as the attitude and the spirit that brings about change and transformation.
Another thing I'd like to say on top of that is that a lot of times what hip hop does, it points to musicology.
Yeah.
It points to this building. It points to Black Betty being played by, you know what I'm saying? So the thing about it, when the naysayers might come about and question hip hop, and a lot of them they might have kind of like the reasoning to say so if they happen to look at it through a narrow lens. Mm-hmm. So it's important, I said, we have to do the documentary series to say, yeah, this comes from important soil. It ain't no kid game shit here, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But really, sometimes you gotta shut adversaries up real quick, and that's what MCs do. Like, oh, rap, hip hop, man, that's not rock and roll. I said, well, you know what? You understand what the rock is. You never understood what the roll is. We the fucking roll. The roll. You know?
Yes, exactly.
It's the rock and roll Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And the roll is the shit that, you know, so yes, Donna Summer is the roll. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, oh, that's not rock, that's not rock. It's the roll, baby. And that shut.
Okay,
that
we
shut
may not be the rock, we damn sure the roll.
Oh, right. That shut every naysayer, journalist, purist. It shut them up, because if you want to really question it, go back to the beginning of the definition.
The very beginning.
And when you go to the beginning of the definition, coming out of the blues, you go back to say Lil Richard, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, you know, Bo Diddley, Elvis, Johnny, you know what I'm saying? So now, instead of going up and saying it's about riffs, now you got to go into your history book too. Mm-hmm. You got to go into the records, and just like the DJs do. DJs go into the records. Record means recording, means documentation.
Yes.
And this is the strength of why this Hall of Fame is important, not just to be here as a museum and a visiting place, but it should permeate every single school curriculum system in the 21st century, because sports does it. Every school is waving the flag for the sports program. Football, baseball, and I'm a sports fan too. But when I see that a high school is depleted of its theater, and it's depleted of its music, and it's depleted of the arts, it'd be one thing if people didn't give a fuck about arts, music, and theater and shit like that. I don't watch movies. I don't listen to music. I'm not into art and shit like that. Right. Cool. But people are into art, music, film more than sports. And now we let sports steal the thunder of entertainment, film, art, and music to get us entertained about the same damn game we've been looking at 100 years. Then you got you got ball players out there who are more artists than the artists now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
We got the foundation that I think is the change of the world, because it's the universal language. And I have to put this plug here. It's not a petty plug, but and no analogy on time, but anyway, I started a cultural app because we are also governed by technology. And I started a cultural app and social media called Bring the Noise. And those were Apple phones. You could go to the Apple store and pull down Bring the Noise. What it is cultural media. So our core is not social media, which invites 8 to 80 just to be all in the same sandbox and you can bring your ratchet shit to it. No, right? That's why they got TikTok and Instagram and you know, YouTube for that. That's all what it is. We wanted to start it from culture with the core being filmmakers. If you got a camera, you're shooting from film because you're a filmmaker, artist, and also musicians, and that's our core. So you can go to Apple and pull down bringthenoiseapp.com, and then Google stores open up August 1st. And it's been stupendous, and I really appreciate my brother here's support. We like to weave it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and saying this is something that's educationally, you know, in your pocket that you can evolve with, because I love sports, man, but I'm just tired of sports narrative being greater than what has already been great. Yeah. Right, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing when you guys, everything you were just talking about the roots of rock and roll, the way people talk about hip hop as not being part of it. The two of you participated in an induction ceremony honoring Robert Johnson and did an incredible piece back and forth. And I think the tagline there, you guys, was the blues gave birth to rock and roll. And then people always say, where did hip hop come from? It came out of soul and funk and rock and roll and all these records.
And the blues is the famous blues artist said, the blues is the roots. Everything else is the fruits.
Right, that's right. It all comes from the same location.
Blues is the roots,
right?
Everything else is just the fruits.
Yeah. So how do the two of you look back on 50 years of hip hop? You're both still making music. You're both still creators, doing great outreach into different communities, as you were just talking about, Chuck. How do you look back and think about that 50 years of hip hop? Has it hit you yet that it's been that long? Do you think where do you think the next 50 years is going? What's this journey that hip hop is on? Because it feels like we're only somewhere in the early stages of it still.
Well, I think we've accomplished a lot, but we still have a lot of work to do now that we're at this stage. You know, hip hop's been around for 50 years. I've been involved with them for 40 of them.
Yeah.
But there's still struggles in our communities. There's still an essence of hip hop that gets diluted, polluted, destroyed, and hid away because anything that is sacred or holy to people or a nation of people will get diluted, polluted, and destroyed once it's commercialized. Yeah. So across the board, what people don't understand about hip hop is this. I hate when rappers, when they get criticized about not using this hip hop culture opportunity for a positive reason. Now, truth be told, you don't gotta be a role model, you just put it on the parents, this and that. But there's something different about hip hop when people say, I don't need to do that, I don't have a responsibility. There's a lack of responsibility with hip hop. How could there be a lack of responsibility for a genre that is the #1 and most popular in the world? Now, it's the superhero thing. With great power comes responsibility. So right now, what I'm saying is this. If you make a record about a gun, there's an unwritten rule in hip hop, the very next record should be the single in hot rotation that it should be about not using that gun. But now what's happening with hip hop, a lot of the next generation is getting denied the opportunity to become a De La Soul, to become a Public Enemy, to become a Run-DMC, even to become a Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Parents can't understand what's relevant in the hood because gangsters got mothers and fathers too. So we are at a point now, we're dictating what people drive, what they wear, what they smoke, what they eat, what we fly in. And the main ingredient that allowed all this greatness to happen is that main ingredient that was there in the front. Because I'm sitting here, I'm listening to hip hop, and these rappers with all these MCs who rap, they weren't rappers, they were MCs, would say stuff that was inspirational, motivational. What I mean by that, here we are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Chuck, you know this, on every tape, will shock and amaze and make you feel shame. Our names will be found in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Every MC before Rappers Delight, before the recording industry prophesied these things came true. So there's an energy.
Yeah.
There's a power that represents this fact. Like Chuck just said, it's the arts that succeeds where politics and religion fails. Because politics and religion will fail you. Why? Because I'm Protestant, I'm Episcopalian, everybody's something different. Music and the arts and theater and dance breaks down all of those walls and puts us all on the same level. Something that I learned from when I was listening to the radio, I'm looking at these rock star guys, I'm like, wow, you know, the thing that's dominant, when you say hip hop right now, people think about wealth and money and stuff like that. From the generation that we come from, when you said hip hop, people thought quality and content and creativity. You know, the same way that you think about how great the rock stars that are in there are. So what we have to do now is, okay, we got all of this. Now it's time to utilize this power to make life better for the people in the next 50 years. Yes. There was a record called The Message, which was the truth. That was a mental health record. It's like a jungle said, don't push me. We all were somewhere. But then the Soul Sonic Force said, okay, this is the message. This is how it is, but this is how it can be. They made a record called Planet Rock. And said, we know a place where everybody's eating and we're not fighting and it's all good. And that dream started to come true. When hip hop dropped, there was change going on in these communities. I had kids come to me, go, DMC, how the hell do you got on Adidas and gold chains and gazelles and you went to St. John's University? Now I'm opening up for dialogue. I told them my greatness isn't just on the mic. Here's what I've been doing. Some of them kids was like, you mean I don't have to have a gun? Nope. You mean I ain't got to be in a gang? Nope. I had one dude said, yo, D, just for you rapping about school made me realize I was lacking something. I had Adidas, I had Pumas, I had a Cadillac, I had a Benz, I had 40 ounces, I had a big gold chain, I had gazelles, I had the Kango like L, the Godfather like you. I had it all. But then I'm hearing Chuck D, Mo D, DMC, I'm hearing about y'all talking about education is cool. So he just said, I went and got a GED. So now when I step outside, I got everything. And that was just in his mind. But then he said, with that GED, I was able to take courses at the local community college, a place that I didn't think I would go. Yo, hip hop didn't just create rappers, y'all. And that's been the talk over the last couple of years. It created doctors and lawyers and designers and playwrights and filmmakers. It created all of this stuff that is not being addressed. So 50 years, hip hop, through being part of a music industry, has accomplished a lot. We made a lot of money, but we still ain't doing what we're here for. So in the next 50 years, it has to be, we change the conditions in Camden. We change the conditions in Trenton. We change the conditions in those cities, which can be done because Africa Bambaataa, the Zulu Nation, was just doing what the Black Panthers was doing. Yo, let's stop fighting. Yo, let's drive, let's make the free lunches. Let's take these kids to school. Let's doing that. But nobody's talking about that. They're talking about all of this success that we had, but are we really successful if people still struggling?
Right.
This film that Chuck did shows that, yo, we can, it's not we shall overcome, we are overcoming, but we gotta keep on overcoming till everybody is allowed to come.
Wow. Great.
I like to say a very, very good-looking, shiny Flavor Flav just walked in the building.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like DMC says that in 1983, he goes to St. John's University, and tomorrow he's lecturing at St. John's University.
Which is crazy, yes. And you know what's cool about that? The first thing J. Cole said to me when he met me was, y'all went to St. John's too. That's powerful. That's to be excited about that. There's so much of that exists. You know, when I was coming up, I was like, hip hop for me was like, keep it real. So I knew that, damn, I was never in the gang. I can't rhyme about that. I never went to jail. Matter of fact, I don't want to go to jail because I like my freedom. I tell the kids, I talk to them, I don't want to get shot because that shit hurt. So when Run said, you gotta understand, if you listen to Sucker MCs, Run rhymes 3 times because he was a solo artist. He just saw these rhymes his friend in the other class at Catholic school was writing. And he just looked at me and said, you wrote these? And I was like, yeah, I was just writing rhymes. He was like, well, my brother lets me write a record. I'm putting you in my group. So he recruited me. We wrote It's Like That, and that's the way it is. And then he went in to do Sucker MCs by himself. He comes out the booth and he says, D, go in there and say a new rhyme, because you gotta prove to Russell, his brother, that you really can do this. Because Russell didn't believe in me. And I was like, nah, man, no, Russell let me write the record roll. Like, no. And Run got mad at me, motherfucker, just go in there and say your newest rhyme. Just go in there and say my newest rhyme. When he said DMC, and if you're ready, the people rockin' steady, driving big cars, get your ass to them Getty. I come on, I'm DMC, in the place to be. When I came out the booth, who was waiting there? Russell. Oh my God, he's talking about chicken and collard greens at St. John's University. So for the rest of the session, it's funny, Chuck. For the rest of the session, everybody that came in the studio, Russell went, come here, stand there, play the rhyme. But there was something special about that because prior to me coming, everybody was rhyming about how fucked up life was. Yeah. It was the message 1, message 2, life in the ghetto, this and that, this and that. And what I'm saying now is, I was speaking to the younger generation, and Chuck always talks about this. I was speaking to the young generation. Nothing is new under the sun. Yeah. The message was commercially successful, so the labels just wanted message records. And then Planet Rock come, do your homework. Go listen to, Planet Rock is one of the most sampled records in hip hop. Play at your own, every R&B, everybody was doing it. When Run-DMC came along with Sucker MCs, it was a game changer. Everybody was using the disco that got thrown away. We were sampling rock, we were sampling from James Brown. There would be no hip hop without James Brown. Everybody was using that, you know what I'm saying? The funky drummer beats. And we said, there's something there, funky drummer beats. Me and Run was only trying to make beat jams. When everybody started using music, we took the music away. There was a change there that did something. And it gave a voice for all of those other young kids that were sitting around, I'm not in the gang, I don't know what I'm gonna do, this and that. Hip hop made it possible for everybody to participate and do something. The Beastie Boys was a white Jewish punk rock group.
That's true, yeah.
Who took a run there. Y'all don't want slow and low? Took slow and low, laid that down, saw something in themselves, and then a month, 2 months later, they had an album called License to Ill. So there was always transformation and evolution in this process, just like it was in rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were rocking and we were rolling, we were hipping and we're hopping, we were funking, we were doing all of that.
Yeah.
And it had a positive effect on the participant. Like, I don't think I'm a pioneer or a legend. Me and Run and Jay are just the faces of what was bound to happen if they let us make fucking records. So that's why you had the floodgates. But what I am to this day is no different than what I was when I was 12 years old in my room. I am a participant of this culture. That's why when me and Chuck is talking about it and stuff like that, when Public Enemy got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we was in LA and we was in the back room. And it was Tom Morello, Chuck D, Chris Cornell, John Fogerty, who else was there?
Rush.
All in the back, just talking. And you know what the talk was about? This bugged me out. Remember, Chuck, we was all in the room. You got all of these great guitar players and singers and artists and John Fogerty there and stuff like that. And the talk in the back room was how great a guitar player Prince was. It wasn't about him being famous. And they were talking, remember, they all were talking about, the best in the business was talking about not Prince as a celebrity, but how good a guitar player he was. So in our communities, what I'm saying about hip hop is this: the first 50 years is great. But even though it's been 50 years, I'm trying to get everybody who's been a participant and the ones coming in to let the world know they ain't seen nothing yet. Nothing yet. This is just the beginning, especially to have these opportunities.
Yeah, D, that's absolutely. it makes me think too, Chuck, one of the things about watching the PBS series that I thought was done so well, you kind of get to the end on the 4th episode and suddenly you realize that Fight the Power, Public Enemy song, is just as relevant today as the exact way it was when you sang it and rapped it originally.
Yes, yep.
It's in watching that documentary, you're like, we keep coming back to it again, again, and again. And I think hip hop, it's made progress in there, right? It's changed people's minds. Speaking as a kid who lived out in Queens, was going into Manhattan buying mixtapes, hearing, Kiss FM and all the music that was
Red
coming out of
Alert,
New York
all the
City,
Mr.
right?
Magic, yeah.
Yeah, right. And what are your thoughts on that Fight the Power? It keeps coming back. It's a touchstone because it's so important to keep saying it over and over and over again all these years.
Well, it's imperative that we eradicate, if not annihilate, the isms.
Yeah.
Racism, sexism, and all those isms and phobias that's out there. And the reason why you have to annihilate something that's systemic is that people come and go. Human beings come and go. Right. When I wrote Fight the Power, in fact, on tour with Run-DMC, and we're on the plane together, and we're going from the UK to Italy, and I think I'm sitting behind you and Jay, and I had my little box. I'm like, oh, I finally got it, and y'all didn't know what was coming, but I finished the verse on a flight from like London to Rome, right? A 3-hour flight and stuff. Yep. And, I was inspired in 1975 by a group that's yet to have a documentary about them, but their span and started they're from this state, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah. Yes.
The Isley Brothers.
Yes.
This is not, we hear about these stories. Their span from 1957
they
make you want to shout.
Yeah.
To like Between the Sheets later on, like young OGs,
songs, right?
young OGs know Mr. Big and Between the Sheets and all the ballads, but in the 70s, they're also funk masters, and also
Isley,
rebellious, rebelliously putting it down the independent record label. Like if anybody saw Spinning Gold, Neil Bogart's story at Casablanca. Anybody seen that?
Yeah.
Yo, you gotta catch these things, yo. And Neil Bogart is like one of the greatest musical innovators of all time. So he's in there, co-writing "It's Your Thing" by the Isleys, and telling the Isley brothers, Rudolph, Ron, O'Kelly, listen. Fuck Berry Gordy for a minute. Do your own shit. I'll get this shit on Buddha Records and all that. And he co-writing "It's Your Thing" with Skip Pitts on the guitar and all that.
Yeah.
So the thing about it, in 1975, when they wrote and did Fight the Power, which was
a phenomenal album.
And then what happens in 1975? Nixon gets damn near impeached. Yeah. This country ain't got a president. They got Gerald Ford as a replacement, but nobody knows what 1976 the bicentennial's about. Yeah. And meanwhile, in the hood, the Isley Brothers come up with Ernie Isley writing "Fight the Power." And it was the
sound
first,
of that thing.
And it was the first record I heard a curse word.
Oh my God!
For all this bullshit going
down.
Whoa!
Hey. Yeah.
So when Spike Lee said he needed an anthem, that sentiment was still in me for 14 years. It wasn't going to be a knockoff or a sample or anything, but I said that's what I want to bring to the table. So the long story short about this is that you have to destroy the isms, because the isms stay around like blood stains in your pocket. Yeah. The biggest difference between 1989 and 2023 is that people weren't born yet, and people have died since. So you could have the same old smell and stench of the isms around. So you always got to have something that breaks that gravity. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what Fight the Power is about. Yeah. Sadly, and also fortunately, but it's sadly that we're looking at the same bullshit in different ways that affect us today. So that's why the song resonates. But like DMC said, it's like we are participants of it. We're not like, okay, we made this,
Right,
and we own it. It's
No.
like you can't really own culture.
Yeah.
You can't
Right.
own soul. You can't own hip hop. You can't own. The beautiful thing I think has to happen in the next 50 years. We need people who say they're just fanatical about it to write about it. Like I said earlier, I mentioned Wild C, who passed away about, I think, 25 years ago? When did Wild C pass away?
2001.
2001.
No.
Yeah.
Right, Wild C passed. This is a dude
Downtown too.
right downtown.
Yeah.
Right.
Picking his mother up from work.
Really?
Wow. You know, and this is a guy that and I also mentioned Val One. I don't know if she's here, but they were partners also writing articles like a 4 pages long, you know? And he had like 1980s, because, DMC, you're right on. As a matter of fact, that's where I silhouetted and cut out E Love's picture standing next to LL Cool J for the logo.
Right
But,
on,
and Right On and Black Beat, it's like a page long and stuff like that. But Wild C in this town was like 4 or 5 pages on like that. I mean, a B-side single and stuff like that. So we need people who caretake and curate. And I think that's what the documentary wanted to dig in.
Yeah.
Laurie Buller took on the challenge of making the challenge. How do we make this importance great, if not greater than popularity? We know why it's popular. How do we make something important? To me, I wake up and if I could hear Let It Be by the Beatles, I'm good with the whole rest of my day. Because I look at that record, I'll be like, damn. I mean, I'm like, 3-letter word, and it falls out like a leaf, and at the end of the song, you're like, what the fuck, man? Yep. Right? It's just, wow. So we have that in hip hop and rap music, but it's not just gonna happen from the songwriters or the performers. I love technology, but if my good friend Prince says, once again, Prince has popped up in this conversation a lot of times.
As he should, right?
As he should, right? As he should. He said, be on top of technology, because if you're not, technology is going to be on top of you. We sampled, but we manipulated sounds into making something like, oh, what the fuck is this?
The Bomb
we didn't
Squad.
take something and just like, okay, we're going to take something and ride with it. Now, I'm not just getting generational with it, but what you're hearing today, like my favorite Jay-Z record of all time, is Death of Auto-Tune. Because when you let technology make you lazy, now we got the fear popping up in everybody like, oh shit, what do we do? Artificial intelligence. And let me tell you this much, technologists don't give a fuck. Then you listen, dumbassification is rampant. Dumbassification and artificial intelligence are juxtaposed against each other, pulling in opposite directions. The dumber that you are, or you want to become, artificial intelligence and technology will fill in the blanks for a price out of your pocket, right? And then all of a sudden, we're in a convenience area in this world right about now, but really in this country where the fear is the next 20 years that, shit, I want something to chew my food. I mean, damn it, that's what a smoothie is, right? That's what a smoothie is. I'm gonna get the green juice and shit like that. Right. I mean, but we're at the point with a buffet. All right, yeah, there's a buffet. Yeah, but you ain't even chewed the food in your mouth, but you at the buffet picking more food. It's like, whoa. So
I need something to chew my food.
I want something to chew my food. Fuck, yo.
That's crazy.
This is where we're heading. So it's reflected even in the music. To me, what struck me sad on the BET Awards is that I like the fact that the Migos was a group. I like the fact that the Migos was a group. Now, the surroundings of what they're in the middle of and all that shit, sometimes you need people to say, listen, come on, like bring it down, tone it down and all that, because I mean, groups been doing crazy shit right throughout.
Forever.
I mean, forever. Matter of fact, they talk about the time where I think back in Lil Willie John's day, and I forgot the artist that shot himself in the back playing around with guns and shit like. Cause they've been doing that shit forever in rock and roll, right? Mm-hmm. But the tragedy of the Migos just trying to like keep it real in real circles. And not knowing that, every eye is on you, and they lost a member, and having like, okay, yeah, we all gonna come on, like pay eulogy to take off, and you're looking at two of them, and one, it's like, yo, man, it's like we go back to that thing, and like when we lost Jam Master Jay, man, it's like these things are like jarring, all because of these other things that encroach upon our music and our culture that keeps us going strong and together. And when I seen them two talk about the tragedy of what happened, it's like, damn, somebody's dragging out the tragedy to see if we can kind of like, and I don't know if it's intentional, it's not, I'm not trying to put a bad light on it, but instead of how this music and art form is, once again, we're fucking around with tragedy and a sad ass story that this group will never be the same because they needed the three of them, and that's where they had their strong points. Right. Their strong points is that they're a fucking group.
Yes.
It's like, wow, I knew more about them as a group than I knew their songs. Because their songs would be like, all right, you're making records for an 11-year-old. After a while, I got to draw the line. I'm like, I'm 62, man, so it's nothing I have in common with a 20-year-old. There's nothing I have in common, and I'm good with it, Matter of fact, if you 40, I'm looking at you side-eye like, what do we got in fucking common? You know what I'm saying? But we can work at it.
Well, it's funny that he bring that up. The other thing with hip hop is the ageism thing.
Yeah, that's the isms. One of the
isms is that. So I was speaking at a high school in the Bronx. And so the whole thing with rock and roll, each generation, your dad, that's your music back then. And they said, but the kids don't know it's all the same thing. So I'm speaking at the high school in the Bronx. One of the kids, Mr. DMC, because I'm 50 now. Like you said, Chuck, if I was 18, 20, DMC. But Mr. DMC, he asked me, what do you think about mumble rap, right? So he was expecting, the OG to hate on it, right? What do you think? He wanted me to hate you, young whippersnapper, but I didn't do that. I said, I could understand and I could respect it. And you should have seen it was about 12 students, 11th and 12th. Huh? Like I rocked the head. Yo, he didn't diss it. And it was like, what do you mean? They had asked me, what do you mean by that? I said, you gotta understand something. The only difference between your generation and my generation, look, I didn't change the world when I was 50. I didn't change the world when I was 40. I didn't change the world when I was 30. I was 20 years old. We was 18 years old, fresh out of high school, not just in making music. We were changing the world with our art form. It had an effect on people. It was causing positive change. I said, the only difference between y'all and my generation is at 18 is when we got criticized, we did something about it. Hold up, stop, take the knee, because they said the same thing. Go back to the history of hip hop. Hippity ain't saying nothing. But when we heard somebody in the room say, they ain't stop that. So we wrote It's Like That. We wrote The Message. We wrote Planet Rock. Tupac made Dear Mama. I said Tupac isn't worship in hip hop because he got shot and went to jail. Two reasons that we love Tupac is Dear Mama and Brenda Had a Baby. He took it upon us and no label said, Pac, you should make a positive record. He did that with this power that he had. And when I said, yo, that Dear Mama, the kids, they know what time they go, yo, that shit sound ill. Because it was a feeling. And then I asked her, I said, what's on another? And one kid had the nerve, Chuck, y'all to say, yo, we don't really like the music, but it's a self-esteem problem with our young generation of hip-hop. They think if they don't listen to what everybody's listening and rap the way everybody's rapping and acting, they think they're not cool. Hip-hop for me was like, yo, they're sampling James Brown, They're sampling Parliament Funkadelic. Fuck that shit. We want to make Aerosmith.
Right.
And then Primo and yo, we gonna do jazz.
Yep.
There's so many options, but right now, if that one thing is successful, these kids need to be taught about how potent and the potential and the beauty that's in themselves. That's what hip hop did. When I first heard hip hop, I went to Rice High School, 124th Street in Lenox. It was an all-boys Catholic high school in the middle of Harlem, right around the corner from the Apollo. And when I got to Rice High School in 9th grade, now the records was out, all the Enjoy records, Sugar Hill records out. But when I got to 9th grade, the kids that were living in Harlem and the Bronx and Manhattan had all the hip hop that was already being done prior to Rappers Delight. Since 73, there was a tape of the Funky 4+1 live at the Autobahn. I was like, the Autobahn, that's where Malcolm X got shot. Yeah, D, they do hip hop shows in there. So out of all of the death and destruction and the darkness, the lack of opportunities, these boys and girls took something, they took music, something that and they took all the type of music. Yo, take that part right there. Think about it like this. We all woke up, I was young and I went to bed and I woke up the next morning. Disco was hugely popular. Like hugely popular. It was the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, all of that. Here's what's crazy. Two of the biggest rock bands in the world made disco records. Queen made another one, Bites the Dust.
Yep.
And the Rolling Stones made Miss You. Why? Because they wanted to get in Studio 54. That's why we got to get in there. But I woke up one day, disco sucks. They threw disco away. Hip hop said, hold up, we'll take that shit.
Yeah.
And we made works of art that everybody could identify with. Yeah. So I hate when the record labels say, and they get happy about it because they're making a lot of money off this new generation of hip hop. Hip hop is the young people's music. No, it ain't. It was created by some young motherfuckers who are older now. And the longer you do something, ageism is fucked up. It was created by, we were young when we made this shit, but some of us are still here, motherfuckers. And I told the kids this, let me prove to you that y'all all wrong about us OGs. The longer you do something, the better you get. And I use this analogy. How many of y'all in here play video games? Oh, me, PlayStation. When you first got that game, it sucked. You hated it. You threw the controller at it. You cursed. My son did it and broke the damn TV. But after about 6 or 7 days, you was getting a high score. So me, Chuck, Big Daddy, Kane, Q-Tip, Flavor, we've been doing this hip hop shit for a long time. So do y'all think we got worse? So that ageism thing people need to understand. When me and Chuck and all of us OGs, we're older now, we're more mature, so we can sit here and have this conversation. But what the younger generation of hip hop don't understand, when we judging hip hop, we're not judging it from our man status. We've been into it long. We judge it from like we were 12, 13, 14, 15, sitting in the room and that tape box came in there, and if that shit sucks, that shit sucks. And that's something the labels ain't gonna say. Think about it like this. Another thing that they did with our hip hop is they threw hip hop on shit that sucks to sell it and market it. It ain't even gotta be good. Put hip hop on it, the world is just hypnotized. So what I'm saying was, it's 50 years of hip hop, like Chuck said. We were just talking back there, Chuck. We got to use this technology. This shit is here for us to utilize so that we don't have anybody else talking about our narrative.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What changed about hip hop? It's a lot of groups. It's a lot of great material out there. Yes, we're making money. Yes, we're the number one genre in the world. But when they made that announcement in the press, Billboard wrote it, they were saying it everywhere. They made that announcement about, what, 20 years ago or 19 years ago? About 15 years ago, when in the press I woke up, hip hop is now the genre.
Gross figures.
Right.
Yeah. For me, it's always been that. When I went over to Japan in 1985, they had a place called the Hip Hop Spot. And they were saying Flash been here, Bam been here, Zulu been here, Jazzy 5 been here, Funky 4+1. What people don't realize, it's always been the number one genre in the world, because we was in London, NME magazine, which been around forever. This was like 1985. This was when me and Run, we wasn't even coordinated. We still wearing the cranberry Defcon jackets.
Right.
I know you'll see some of them. They had one of the pictures that you're using, me and Run. That was before Jay was even in the group. That was me and Run promo shots. We had to select and circumcise, then we had to get a DJ. But when we put Jay in the group, this is like 85, Chuck, and we in London, you know, we young or whatever, and we like, yo, we overseas and that. And the person asked Jay this question. He said, did you ever think and this is 85, did you ever think that hip hop was gonna be this big? And this is 85, and not even what's going on now. And I'll never forget, Jay said these words. Jay said, I knew it was gonna be big because it was always so big to me when I first heard it. Wow. And when he said that, I said, that happened to me, that happened to Chuck, that happened to people in this and there. And it was the same thing with rock and roll. So there's a purpose, 50 years of hip hop, what our culture, the supporters, the writers, we all gotta play our part because like I said, there's a purpose in this position.
Right.
There's a purpose in this position. It ain't just about record sales, it ain't just about how much money. Now that we're doing all of this, and it's a purpose in this position because now we need the ones that created it, who are the greatest. The greatest period in hip hop is the period before recorded rap. Because it was an experience. It was a life-changing. But now we need them, we need us, we need all the record-making motherfuckers, and we need the ones that's gonna be for the future to come together. When I look at rock bugs me out. It's like, you know, if an OG walks to a radio station, and then this happened to me one time at Hot 97. I'm walking through the radio station. This was about maybe 20 years ago. I'm walking through the radio station. You know how they have the window and stuff like that? And I'm walking by. So they see DMC. Hold up. And I'm not ego. Motherfucking DMC is in the building. They just mentioned, oh, and DMC just walked by. And they kept going on with the dialogue. And I remember I was somewhere, I was probably here in Cleveland, and it was a festival going on, and it was like Limp Bizkit, and it was Korn and all of these guys. And I was somewhere, and David Grohl was doing an interview on the radio station in the building. Now I'm there he's at the rock station, and Tom Petty walks by. So they say, Tom Petty walked by the radio station and Grohl, stop, go get him. And they brought Petty in and sat down. What's messed up about hip hop, this is funny too. I don't like the old school at noon. I think it's disrespectful. Why would you say that? They're giving your time, this and that. I said, no, it's disrespectful. Why would you say that? When me and Chuck, we're on in your favorite city or the old school at noon, here's a question that's gonna blow your mind. Where are the kids?
In school.
So do they get to hear us?
No.
When they get out of school from 3 o'clock to 10 in the morning, what's on the radio? I get high. You see what I'm saying? We have to change that. You know what I'm saying? We got to be in a point there. Chuck D's downstairs. Somebody run downstairs and get him real quick. Because I see rock stops the bus for their people without considering age. Jazz stops the bus for their people. Broadway stops the bus for their participants. Oh, Robert De Niro just walked by. Matthew McConaughey's going to, go ahead, Rob. And that even makes Matthew cool, because that's better than him sitting there talking about himself because he gave them the seat. So that's what I'm saying. 50 years, all of this is going on. Now it's time to make stuff happen. Your show, your film is very timely. My fear is people going to pay attention.
And it was free on PBS. They had to.
That's another thing.
They had to stream it through Hulu or get new Netflix subscriptions out of the. It's like, oh no, by the way, Netflix is going to cost you $50 a month now. It's like, no, it was free on PBS and also along with the BBC.
Yep.
And this was one of the things that Laurie set out to do. Said not only are we going to make this important, greater than popularity, but we're going to put it in the circles that will make it accessible and also be able to plug in. But also like the thing you know, Jason and Greg and also Shelby, you know, here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for understanding this level up of comprehension of where not only we take it, see, when we take it somewhere, we're letting everybody know that this is a no door policy. Not even an open or door policy or closed door. It's a no door. Come on. If you think you love this thing it's very key to know about what you love and that you could participate in the thing that you say you love instead of the door closed, like, how could I get in? Right. And the fact that you open up this dialogue or this hall to say, we are all inclusive of the rock and the roll. And I know you get those arguments out there, but you get those arguments for people who are less informed of what this damn thing is about anyway. We don't have, and once upon a time we had an MTV that says, we gotta have a Kurt Loder, we gotta have a Dave Cerrone, we gotta have, Ted Demme with Yo MTV, we gotta have a Dr. Dre, a Ed Lover, another one of our great heroes, never ever gets mentioned, who's really seriously has been there. He's like Forrest Gump, man. Fab Five Freddy. Fab Five Freddy he's a Forrest Gump because his lineage goes from before hip hop as an art connoisseur. Even has blonde, Deborah Harry.
Deborah Harry made a rap song, called Rapture. Think about that.
Fab Five Freddy and Flash is fast and Flash is cool. Like, whoa. And Fred also ushered in across the United States of America, curating hip hop and rap music under, Ted Demme gets the light from MTV, who finally says, and it started in the UK because they named Yo MTV Raps off of Yo Bum Rush the Show. And Yo Bum Rush the Show, which was kind of big in this city when it began our first album, but also in London. And they said, we're going to start a rap show. So, Yo, MTV Raps, and then when they did the pilot over here, who actually kicked the show off for being successful? We were on the Run's House tour. And this Yo MTV Raps was getting a pilot. Will it work? And the Run's House tour, we played Austin, Texas.
Perfect setup.
1988 in the summertime. And when Run and DMC and JMJ gave their co-signing on it, it opened up the floodgates of MTV. And MTV had to curate the art form properly. And they also knew that they had to come right talking about rock. They had Kurt Loder would bring you the news every day. Tabitha Soren, people who are forgotten about, and they was like, now here, and people you'd be like, all right, MTV News, the world spins and shit. That's what made MTV seriously. It was first when it came out. It was laced with the isms. No, we don't play black. It was very blatantly like we ain't playing no black music.
Interview when they was interviewing David Bowie about him, and he just said to the video, "Why you don't play more black artists?" That's it. They have a great documentary about MTV too. And I mean, David Bowie sitting there, and he just, I'm credited, and David Bowie was sitting there. The guy asked a question. He said, "Why you don't play more black artists?" That was like the game changer.
So Michael Jackson cracks through, and then Run-DMC in 1984 cracks through. Remember, like, it seems like they're 8 years apart. There's a 1 year apart.
1 year, it seemed like for decades.
It's like 83 Thriller, Michael Jackson.
And then when Michael changed his skin this bad, people was making a joke. Michael Jackson was on there, but he didn't count. Because he changed his skin. We was just black with the Adidas on and stuff like that. And the beautiful thing about that was, MTV put this culture, they didn't know what they was doing in every living room.
Every living room.
Every white kid, every Jewish kid, every Italian kid, every black kid, every Puerto Rican. That was the game changer. And like I said, it was these kids, they don't care, that's me. They're speaking for, wow, that's me. And why was it relatable? Because China has ghettos, Japan has ghettos, South America, London has ghettos. What we were shown was they was like, this shit happens right outside my door, but I'm loving them because they got the balls and the guts to talk about it. Just like rock and roll, just like punk rock. I was speaking with Tim Armstrong of Rancid. And we was talking about hip hop. Tim Armstrong said this. We were just in the studio messing around. We was in Flea's studio that Tim Armstrong brought from him because Flea said, "You want to buy my studio tomorrow?" "Yeah, I'll buy it." So we were just in there making records, and Tim Armstrong said something powerful. He said, punk rock, here in America and overseas, had their middle finger up to the establishments. Then hip hop comes along. It validated them. They was on the right track, so it made punk rock put two fingers up. I said, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
all
that's
the same.
that period I love in New York City in the late 70s, right? Because that's, like you said, disco, punk rock, hip hop, they're all happening blocks apart. And people are going from one party to the next and hearing that music.
Dance interior of the world. It was all, it was a society.
Yeah.
It was journalists. It was right. You walk in dance interior. Oh shit, they go Madonna. Oh shit, they go Fat Freddy. Oh shit, they go Flav. Oh shit, they go the Beasties. Oh shit, they goes fucking we opened for Lou Reed. In New York City, 1985, we get a call. Lou Reed wants you to no. What the fuck y'all trying to do? What is it? I'm trying to fuck up. Lou Reed wants you to open up, so we open up for Lou Reed. This is 1985.
Yeah.
We play. I forgot where we played. We played this little theater. It was like a little stage. And the funny joke during the whole concert, we did It's Like That. We did Circumcised. We did Hard Times.
Yep.
We did Here We Go. And we had just made Rockbox. This was 84.
Yeah.
We didn't even put the album out. The album was coming, so we opened up for Lou Reed. So the funny part about this show was the whole time, there was about 20 people in the front like this to us. And the funny thing is, me and Run, Jay's there, me and Run rapping, the 20 people in the front, this is real fun. We can hear them. Fuck you, Joe. Fuck you, Dad. We know you hear us, so we just go. It's the craziest shit ever. So we leave, we go back in the dressing room, we sit in the dressing room. So the stage guy comes, yo, Run, yo, Jay, y'all gotta hear this. We come out. Lou Reed with that drawl that he had, he's addressing, I want to address 20 people that was cursing and putting their middle fingers up at Run-DMC. And he looked them in the eye and it was like the father talking to the kid. If you're going to disrespect them, you disrespecting me too.
Wow.
He said, I was trying to figure it out, beating on pots and pans, taking all type of music from everywhere, trying to figure out who I am. And he gave that speech and we just stood there like that. And since that day, that made us say, man, fuck that. Lou Reed said we fucking dope, man. So we don't give a fuck anymore. I'll never forget that. Lou Reed stood up for Run-DMC.
That's pretty good. Well, I'll tell you, I think we're going to have to end it there because we got some other great things planned for today, including the exhibit dedication at 5 o'clock.
This is a nice TV show, right? You know,
Yeah.
DMC and Chuck D and
That's
Jason.
it. We just keep going. Every week at 5 o'clock.
Every week, something new.
Yeah. Rock and roll JMJ.
Well, again, a sincere thank you to both you guys. You've been great friends at the museum and always fantastic hearing your stories. And we look forward to seeing you at the exhibit dedication in a little bit.
Yes,
and thank you
sir.
everybody
Thank
for
you.
coming out today, too. DMC and Chuck D.
Thank you.